Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. It is FSM Football Sunday here on a snowy, or at least potentially snowy, Sunday morning. We have heard anything from 4 to 12 inches in the Kansas City area. Quite a range, so thank you, meteorologists. We appreciate it. He's Fensty. I'm Ben. Justin Fensterman of SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio and Fantasy Alarm. I'm with Fantasy Sports Markets, the newest DFS site, where you get to play with no salary caps. It's so much fun. It's so much easier. And you don't have to worry about the Sharks taking all your money. Fensty, good morning, buddy. How you doing?
I love avoiding those shark-infested waters, Ben. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
And I love avoiding snow because snow is terrible. Unless you're in grade school and you get a day off from school, there is no benefit to snow. It's not fun to me, Ben.
No, and even if you can't go into work, that sucks for us because we like what we do.
Right, exactly. And the problem is, especially when you work in radio, it doesn't stop for snow. Okay, we can have 60 inches of snow and the radio shows must go on.
Yes.
So yours truly has to make it through whether I'm walking 8 miles or whatever. Ben, snow, not a snow guy.
By the way, I remember, since for those of you guys, and we're getting this thing set up, we will answer all of your lineup questions for Week 12 in the National Football League. Your fantasy lineup, stardom, situms, we are here for you guys. I remember, because Fensty and I used to work together. We were both at SiriusXM in D.C., and D.C. is one of those cities that doesn't really know how to handle snow, right?
They're very reactive. They wait,
Yes.
They watch the snow. Oh, the snow is great. This is very nice. Oh, it's going to snow on the White House. And then guess what happens? We're all stuck because we're not prepared. There's no sand on the ground beforehand. It sleets down here, and you're in 6 hours of traffic.
But the thing is that they would tell us, hey, there's a hotel about 2-3 blocks away from the studios. Just stay at the hotel. And I remember one time they were ready for Snowmageddon. It was right around Christmas time. And they're expecting 5 to 12 inches, and it's going to be an insane mess. No snow. No snow whatsoever.
Then it happened 2 months later in 2010, Ben, I'll tell you that much, where we did actually have a snowpocalypse. So D.C. definitely doesn't get ready, unlike some of the other northern cities.
That's 100% true. There's a lot going on this week, Fenston. There's a lot of strange matchups that we'll get to. There's some injury bug news that we're still trying to figure out. So as we're waiting for some of your guys' questions to roll in, what can you tell us on the latest on somebody like Melvin Gordon? What's going to be the situation there? And is there any new injury news popping up early this morning?
Yep, regarding Melvin Gordon, he says he does plan on playing. Now, are we out of the woods yet where it's lock him in totally? No, because that can definitely change depending on how he feels during warmups. Adam Schefter, though, says he plans on playing, so take that for what it's worth. And this being a later game like we previewed before, this is a very, very, not a big risk, but just a sticky situation, because when Melvin Gordon, getting a lot of tweets at Fensty Sports over here regarding Melvin Gordon and do you play this running back or that running back that has a better matchup? If Melvin Gordon's playing, Ben, I need him in my lineups.
I think without question the highest ceiling player today is Melvin Gordon in that matchup. The problem is that you just don't know whether or not you're going to be able to trust him today with the current situation, whether or not you think he's going to be able to go. As far as matchups and as far as taking advantage of opportunity, what I've loved about Melvin Gordon so far this year is that they haven't run him into the ground. They've used him really effectively in the passing game. And he's looked, other than until the last couple of weeks, the healthiest he's been in his career. The explosive burst that we saw from his times at the University of Wisconsin has been back. They've been using him effectively in pass-catching situations. I've been really impressed with Melvin Gordon so far. And especially if you're a fantasy owner waiting for those final opportunities to creep into the playoffs are concerned, you need him today. And honestly, Fensty, I know that there could be a possible bait and switch from the Chargers side that he says he's going to play, gets a couple carries, and they just rest him the rest of the way. But, I mean, what do you do here? I feel like you got to play him regardless. If he says that he's in, and he's been trying to convince this coaching staff to let him play, you got to play Melvin Gordon today.
Well, the thing with Melvin Gordon, I mean, it was really the hamstring that was the big focus on this injury. But in fact, they were more concerned, the Chargers, regarding the knee. And I think that is a little bit newer of an injury. And because of that, that's where the Chargers are a little bit afraid. But I don't want to be that guy, Ben, especially in a crucial Week 12, that doesn't start Melvin Gordon and all of a sudden he has 18 points. How many times have we seen even receivers who've been questionable go into games and dominate?
Mm-hmm.
You start your studs. That's how it is. You can't outthink yourself.
Right, and there's going to be some really intriguing matchups. Obviously, if Gordon isn't 100%, and a lot of the reports will come in, then there's a good opportunity, an amazing opportunity for Austin Eckler. We'll talk about some of the other value running backs that you can get today. There are a few of them. One of them, again, it's sort of in a similar situation. Alex Collins likely to go today in Baltimore. But again, do you trust him? He's been getting himself into the end zone and basically saving any sort of fantasy value left. And honestly, Fensty, a lot of people, including myself, held on to Alex Collins because the schedule down the stretch for the Ravens was going to be so advantageous towards running backs. And the addition of Lamar Jackson into their starting lineup has been critical. It opens up the running lanes for so many guys. But then Gus the Bus shows up last week, and all of a sudden it's a very different ballgame.
People are spending half of their remaining waiver budgets on Gus Edwards, and because of that, you're talking $50 or so.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy that you're immediately putting into your starting lineup today. The matchup couldn't be better. But what do you do with Alex Collins? I can't trust him, Ben. I'm in a bunch of situations where I am a Collins owner, and while I didn't drop Alex Collins, I sure as heck don't trust him right now.
Right.
Even though he got the touchdown, where was he the rest of the game? Last week was an advantageous matchup. He should have been a top 5 running back.
Yeah, I loved him last week.
Why wouldn't they go back to him? And Lamar Jackson running as much as he does, I can't trust Alex Collins for full double-digit production, Ben, until Joe Flacco is back at the helm there.
Yeah, but even if Flacco's back, who knows what it's going to be in that situation. Lamar Jackson opens it up for them, theoretically, right? Like, yes,
right.
The rushing numbers are going to go away from Collins, but at the same time, you have to completely change your defensive game plan because of Lamar Jackson's ability to run. So I like Alex Collins more if Lamar Jackson is in there. The problem is just I don't know whether it's going to be Collins or whether it's going to be Gus Edwards. Who's going to be the hot hand in the second half? And I was so big on Collins down the stretch, Fence, because of how they used him last year. He was the guy. He was the bell cow running back. And now all of a sudden, they threw in Ty Montgomery for a couple snaps. You have Buck Allen's corpse hanging on for dear life. So it's been a frustrating situation in Baltimore. Already a lot of questions coming in. I see you, PD Dubs. We will get to D Nation, Andrew on Facebook, and Siri from Periscope. StatRoute, our friends over at StatRoute are on board this week. Big fan of the people over at StatRoute. They have a fantastic service that you guys can go to. We put some of their information up, I think the other day, over on Twitter at FSM Contest. But let's get to Chad from Periscope. I said he was going to be the first question we would answer today because it's a great PPR toss-up today. Wide receiver, Fensty, between Alshon Jeffrey or Josh Gordon today. Both of them, I think, are in fantastic spots. The question is, which one do you choose?
Man, I love Alshon Jeffrey's matchups. I trust him. You look at the rest of the receiving core here. You can't trust them, but you can trust Alshon Jeffrey. So I am likely, even though, by the way, the Jets defense, Bill Belichick can say it as many times as he wants. The Jets defense is borderline non-existent. It's more that the other team just didn't score than the Jets defense actually being good. So I'm thinking Josh Gordon has a good chance for a big play today. We're going to go Josh Gordon on this one.
I also agree with you on that call. I think Julian Edelman, if you're looking at the safest receivers from the Patriots side, he's one of my favorites as a guy that I actually don't think a lot of people will be on today. Even against the middle of the field, and the Jets have been awful there this year. I love the matchup for Edelman, but the reason I go with Gordon is because I think about all the potential volume today from the Eagles side. They're likely to be in a shootout with the Giants, right? And so I think that plays in an advantageous role to Alshon Jeffrey. Problem is, we have no idea where Carson Wentz has been going with the ball. Is he going to go to Jeffrey? Right. Are they going to start using Golden Tate more in the middle of the field? You started to see that last week. He led the team in targets even though they got their ass kicked. Had a little bit more extra time to get themselves back on track. They're at home. Is Nelson Aguilar going to get more than a target this week? There's lots of guys for Wentz to get the ball to. The question is, will he? And you're now seeing, a 2-3-man team in the backfield. At some point, I just worry about targets moving away from Alshon Jeffrey, even in a very good matchup. And I just feel like I can trust Josh Gordon to get at least 6 targets today.
Right, and they're going to take a long shot at him early. That's the thing with the Patriots. The Patriots do want to destroy the Jets. They still, even though the Jets aren't good, they still view that as a big division rivalry. And I know Tom Brady gets especially up when playing the Jets. And again, the Jets defense has barely been existent So, that's one thing that you could realize is that you could beat them on the ground, but more importantly, you could beat them in the air, and that's what's going to happen today with Josh Gordon. I almost want to predict, Ben, that Josh Gordon is going to get the first touchdown for this game, and it's going to be a 30-yard strike.
Ooh, I wonder what that player prop might be. That could be like a nice little 6-1 for you if you wanted to jump on board on that bet. Let me ask you a question, though. Do you think people are giving Tom Brady enough love today for his fantasy matchup? Do you think there's a chance that Tom Brady could be low-owned today?
I think there is. I think that the thing with Tom Brady, though, is that he shouldn't be low-owned today. I think the problem is that everybody is so into, what's good about today, unlike most days, we're without Breeze or Ryan. So I feel like today is the perfect day to get Tom Brady more involved. But if you're talking about veterans that are getting more focus and more love than Tom Brady this week, Big Ben Roethlisberger is certainly that guy.
See, I don't love the matchup for Roethlisberger at all.
But, I think Tom Brady should get more love than him.
Okay. I agree with you. I thought you were talking about it as a possible play that you like today.
So I'm just saying that Big Ben is getting more attention than Tom Brady has this week.
I gotcha. Okay, so there you go. To Chad, appreciate you watching on Periscope today. We both like Josh Gordon, especially in PPR, a little bit more than Alshon Jeffrey today. But both Fency and I both believe he's getting in the end zone as well. So good luck. Our buddy PD Dubs checks in on Periscope. He says, need a high ceiling since I got a dude from MT. I'm not sure what that means, but regardless, do you go with DJ Moore or Cortland Sutton today in PPR? So I do like the matchup for Sutton actually against Pittsburgh, and a lot of people have concerns about that. But I think both Manny Sanders and Cortland Sutton are in great spots today. But here's the thing now with Carolina, Devin Funchess is not going to play. So that possibly gives Moore an opportunity to uptick his volume. They could end up doing a few other things on the other side of the field. Maybe they incorporate, Curtis Samuel a little bit more. But DJ Moore feels like an absolute rock-solid PPR play today, even ahead of Cortland Sutton.
He's getting the targets. And in this matchup, against Seattle, that's one thing. The one thing with that scares me is I think he wants the high ceiling guy. DJ Moore is the high ceiling guy. Cam's numbers versus Seattle, though, is something that is a bit alarming to me, though, Ben. And that's something that I am watching out with these Panthers receivers. But because, like you mentioned, the Funchess health factor, I'm thinking that DJ Moore is that high ceiling player between them.
Sutton is probably a little bit more safe because he's locked into that number 2 role, and that Denver's going to have to pass a bunch in this game. And you started to see his target volume go up over the last few weeks. So I think both of them are fine plays today. But yeah, if you're looking for upside and a game that I think has a higher chance to be a higher scoring game, more of a shootout, we would both agree that that's Carolina and Seattle, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there you go, PD Dubs. Your question hopefully has been asked and answered. Speaking of Curtis Samuel, he actually comes in from D Nation on Periscope. Do you go with Curtis Samuel or David Moore?
Wow.
In a game where the two of them are facing up against each other.
Well, and I think this is a good time to transition back to the injuries a little bit quickly because reports are out. We're getting Doug Baldwin, Ian Rappaport. So, again, Ian Rappaport, take that as you will, saying that there's a, quote, good shot that Doug Baldwin plays. So that doesn't really give us too much. You want to think positively about that, but if Doug Baldwin is in, if he ends up being out, then absolutely I'd go David Moore in this situation.
Agree. Yeah, and again, Baldwin is one of those guys, too, where just where you finally feel like he's getting himself healthy and getting himself back on track, he goes and does this, finally gets himself in the end zone and starts to continuously be frustrating. So, I'm with you there. And I think especially if he's out, David Moore is the way to go. Let's go to Facebook where Andrew is weighing in. It is a standard league. One got to go between DJ Moore, two got to go. DJ Moore, Joe Mixon, James White, or Aaron Jones in a standard league. So I think Joe Mixon is a lock for today, right?
Yes.
In standard?
Yes.
Okay. And then I have a hard – I know James White is a PPR monster, but his usage has been so good and so consistent all season long in New England that even with Aaron Jones, who's been good, it's a tough matchup on the road Sunday night against Minnesota. And I know that DJ's got a good spot, but I have a hard time saying anybody besides Joe Mixon and James White in this matchup.
Right. So between and it was 4, and so 2 have to go. So
yeah, he can only start 2.
Right. Obvious that Moore was going to go. Mixon, I'm thinking, is a lock for 2 touchdowns today, Ben.
2 touchdowns today for Joe Mixon.
2 touchdowns for Joe Mixon. Huge fan. And now, again, bringing the injuries back into the mix here, A.J. Green doesn't look like he's going to play today.
No, I don't think he will. And that was somebody that I made a late trade for in the season. I had a little bit of depth, and I was able to move to get A.J. Green. And so far, it hasn't paid off. But again, if he's healthy in the fantasy playoffs, my big concern is that A.J. Green is hiding something a lot more serious, and he ends up missing the rest of the year.
It's funny you say that because surgery was on the table at one point, and he's avoiding it.
Right, he said no.
Maybe that's not a good idea, Ben.
Yeah. Listen, as long as he gets himself on the field, you know that he's one of the safest floor players in all of fantasy. So I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that he's still able to stick around.
Let's get back to this run game, though, with Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb are going off today. I am so confident that we are going to be seeing both of these guys at the top of the rankings for running backs this week. Maybe not at the tippy top, but I love both of them. You certainly can run on Cleveland. And I know A.J. Green's being out, it'd probably be better for Mixon if he was in, but still, it doesn't matter. I think that Joe Mixon is going to be getting 2 touchdowns today.
If you ended up playing those 2 guys on fantasy sports markets today, and by the way, I didn't even introduce the fact that for those of you guys that are watching today and are new to fantasy sports markets, promo code NFL18 when you guys go to fantasysportsmarkets.com, go ahead and register. If you've already registered, you can just type it in wherever in the top right-hand corner where your name and the amount of cash that you have in your account is listed. Promo code NFL18 gets you $5 on us. You can enter it in any of the contests you want. It does not have to be just for football. There's NBA, there is NFL, hockey, college basketball. College football, nothing up right now, but we'll have stuff for the conference tournaments, or not tournaments, but the conference championship games coming up next week. Maybe have some stuff for bowl weeks, do a little bit of a bowl survivor. There's plenty that you can do over at Fantasy Sports Markets with the promo code NFL18. But going back to that for a second, Fensty, the idea of playing Mixon and Chubb today, because you're right, both of them are in great spots. Love the matchup for both of them. Yet, think about it from an ownership perspective. Like, this is why everybody's like, well, at Fantasy Sports Markets, you just play the chalk guys every week. Look at the results. There's always plenty of contrarian plays that end up going off, and the chalk just sort of helps you get started. But you're still looking for advantageous moves. You're still looking for low ownership. Man, between Saquon Barkley, James Conner, Christian McCaffrey, Melvin Gordon, if he plays, if you're talking about Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb, I think you have a chance at under 10% ownership for both those guys. So those are great contrarian plays at Fantasy Sports Markets today. I love that call.
I almost want to right now go to FSM and put those in my lineup right now.
Yeah, unless I steal them from you and put them in the Beat Benny Ice lineup instead.
You can't take any ideas from this podcast right now.
No, you're right. That's perfectly fair. This is
the Beat Benny Heist contest here.
Right, that's true. You just showed a way to be able to beat me.
Yes.
Just now I'm starting to get nervous with some of my plays. Good Lord. But there you go. You're always looking for a one play or two that's going to be a low ownership guy that can give you leverage. It's not just for the salary sites. It's also with us. The nice part is that you can still play whoever you want when you're playing at FantasySportsMarkets.com. Your friend Annie Siri checks back in. Between Carson Wentz or Nick Mullins today in a must-win. So if you were asking us this question a year ago, we'd laugh it off. But the reality is that Nick Mullins... We'd
be like, who's Nick Mullins?
Well, we'd also be saying, who's Nick Mullins? The reality is that Nick Mullins arguably has the best matchup of the slate today, going up against Tampa Bay. Now, it is a West Coast to East Coast game, and a lot of those times those numbers do not play out well for those quarterbacks. Having said that, the number one scoring quarterback all season long in fantasy is Pat Mahomes. The number 2 scoring quarterback all season long is anybody that has played the Tampa Bay defense. Nick Mullins is now a part of that conversation. And you can absolutely throw on Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay is going to throw all over San Francisco. There are going to be points scored in this game. Nick Mullins, however, does not have Marquise Goodwin today, which is a big loss. Still is George Kittle, still is Dante Pettis, still is a couple other guys that he can throw the ball to, and they're going to use Matt Breida quite a bit, both in the running game and the passing game. But are you going away from Carson Wentz even in a great matchup for Nick Mullins? Because I don't think I am.
Because Carson Wentz also has a great matchup.
Yes, he does.
And while you can run all day, by the way, speaking of the Eagles, Josh Adams in a great position today as a value play on salaried sites as well. But besides that, it's going to be a shootout. I really don't see Eagles-Giants being a low-scoring game. If I thought that, I would definitely go Nick Mullins here. But I think if you're looking comparative speaking, that Carson Wentz has almost as good of a matchup as Nick Mullins does. And he has twice the amount of legit weapons that Nick Mullins does.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it. I'm with you on Wentz. I feel like this is an opportunity to right the ship. You're going to see a lot of points on both sides. Both of these defensive corners have not been able to stop anybody recently. So I love Wentz in this game. I like Mullins too. Like if you wanted to use Mullins as a dart throw on some of the salary sites, you can. I wouldn't recommend him at FSM today, but I think Carson Wentz is very much in play. Is Wentz even a possible play for you, or Wentz or Manning a possible play for you at fantasy sports markets, knowing you're going to have exposure to likely Zach Ertz or Odell Beckham or Saquon Barkley? Would you feel comfortable starting one of them in FSM today?
Yes, especially from the ownership standpoint, Eli Manning. I'd absolutely trust today.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about that. When you, but I know I'm serious. Like the idea that you would, because you're going to have exposure. A lot of Beckham is probably going to be about 70 to 80% owned. Barkley might be 100% owned. Let's be perfectly honest here, unless they go the Fensty route and go Mixon and Chubb, which God, it's just so sharp on your part. God, I love that play. And yet no one's going to be on it.
You got to think like a coach, and it's like you don't. Why go with one running back in this juicy matchup when you could go with both of them?
That's true. Double your pleasure, double the fun. We got questions coming in from D Nation, from Ritatance on Periscope, from our buddy Mark on Facebook. More from Periscope, from Trine, from Megan, from Jeffrey, Andrew, Giuseppe. We will get to all these questions, so thank you guys for your patience. We're going to try and go through some of these pretty quick. A lot of responses so far. It's good to be back on Periscope, on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live, so thank you guys for being a part of the show today. We sincerely appreciate it. So let us go to Seth. Our buddy Seth checks in on Periscope. He says, I got Lamar Jackson in 2 leagues. Do I start him in a 6-point passing touchdown league over Baker Mayfield? Well, I mean, I think the matchup is great for Baker, but Lamar's just so safe with that rushing floor. And again, like, yeah, are you chasing 6-point touchdowns? Sometimes, but he's going to get a 6-point touchdown by running the ball too. And in case he floats one into the end zone, gets one in, he gets 6 points there too. I love Lamar Jackson today, and I'm absolutely starting him even over Baker Mayfield, who's in a great spot.
I'm fine with that. Again, it's Oakland. So, you know what? I'm totally fine with that. Now, the passing touchdowns being 6 points, I think with Lamar Jackson there, the receivers are completely devalued then, unfortunately, when it comes to Baltimore.
And John Brown was a guy that I loved all year.
Right. I can't start Crabtree in my lineups right now.
No.
Are you kidding me? I'm not going to. I have the same issues with starting Crabtree that I do with starting Alex Collins right now.
Right.
It's a little bit of a confusing situation, but the one thing we do know is they're going to be able to score points because it's Oakland at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And I'm fine with trying out Lamar Jackson and what could be the best matchup for him for the rest of the way if he ends up continuing to start.
Lamar is one of the – it's weird to have a quarterback that's not only one of the safest floor options, but also one of the highest ceiling options today. That's Lamar Jackson today. You
don't think, though, that Baker Mayfield is one of those guys that has the highest ceilings, though? I mean, the Bengals defense is I don't want to say non-existent, but it's not that good. Their run defense certainly is horrible, but even throwing on them, teams have been able to beat them in the air as well.
Well, but also goes back to something that you said before. Like, we both love Nick Chubb today. We both love the added the usage from Freddie Kitchens, their new offensive coordinator and former running backs coach, of using the running backs in their offense. Now, like, if you wanted to pair up Duke and Baker Mayfield and go super contrarian there and avoid Nick Chubb completely, then yeah, I got no problem with that. But I have a hard time. If Chubb goes off, he's not that involved in the passing game. He might get anywhere between 3, 4, 5 targets max. So if Chubb goes off, then where does that leave Baker Mayfield? Is he still going to throw for 3, 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, and Chubb could run for 120-something and change? I don't know if I could possibly see that happening.
You're right with something you said with the rushing floor for Lamar Jackson being a little bit safer there, because we don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to be able to throw 200 yards.
Right. But again, think about it from this perspective. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, that let's say Lamar Jackson rushes for 60 yards. How many yards did he rush for last week? Like 100 something?
I have to go back and check it out.
Okay, so we'll go back and double check it for Lamar Jackson. But let's say he rushes for 60 yards. So that's 6 points right there. Now let's say he throws for 150 yards. That's another 6 points right there. And then if he runs a touchdown in, that's another 6 points. So all of a sudden that's an easy 18 points with not a ton of necessarily like really working for it from Lamar Jackson. If he rushes for a touchdown and he throws for a touchdown, obviously you're looking at a quarterback with 24 fantasy points. So he can get you those yards easily.
So Lamar Jackson against Cincy rushed for 117 yards.
117 yards. Okay, so that's basically 11.7 total fantasy points just on the rushing side alone.
Right. He threw a pick, but he threw for 150 yards.
Which is another 6 points minus 2. So you're looking at 15.7 points just on its own. Right? And that's that's usually for standard leagues versus compared to, DFS where it's -1 for him. So I think that's 16, 17 points for Lamar Jackson, just based on yardage, not including touchdowns. Right? So that's, man, I think he's in a great spot today. I think Baltimore's probably one of the defenses that I really love too. And I'm sort of looking at it as one of those not contrarian plays, but where you're able to have a leverage play, a correlation play of, how a lot of times you stack up a defense and a running back together because you believe that the running game is going to carry it because the defense has done well. You can kind of look at it in the same way for Baltimore as well. Use Lamar Jackson, use the Ravens defense, knowing that Jackson's going to run, and the Baltimore defense is in a fantastic spot. Derek Carr could throw for 3 interceptions today. He always gives up a couple fumbles too. So I love Baltimore's defense today.
I really wanted the Raiders, to come out with Seth Roberts. I almost said Seth Rollins or Seth Roberts as their
I want them to come out with Seth Rollins.
Yes, I think they'd be more entertaining out with Seth Rollins and Seth Roberts. But with Seth Roberts now, it looks like Jordy Nelson is going to play today. So take that for what you want. The Raiders still stink.
Yeah, quick follow-up from Seth. Would you still play Lamar Jackson over Phillip Rivers?
Oof.
I still think I would. Phillip Rivers, for as gaudy as his numbers have been, and they've been impressive this year, he's still the number 12 or number 13 scoring fantasy quarterback because he has no mobility. He'll throw a couple of bad picks every so often. He hasn't done it much this year, but, he did it last week. And I think the upside's too good and too much of a safe floor with Jackson's ability to run. So I love Lamar Jackson today, even over Phillip Rivers.
I'll go that direction with you as well.
Okay.
I mean, you have Tyrell Williams. I mean, Mike Williams has hardly been getting targeted. You have the Melvin Gordon situation, which it is looking like he is going to play.
Yeah.
You've got Tyrell Williams, who is currently questionable right now. I mean, I think especially because of the matchup. The matchup is just too good for Lamar Jackson.
No doubt about it. All right, plenty of questions that we still got to get to. I apologize that we got off on a little bit of a rant there.
We need to, though, because Lamar Jackson, we're taking him over guys like Phillip Rivers, who've been throwing a lot. This is something that we need to talk about.
I've been telling Fence Deep people for weeks that once Joe Flacco got hurt, if you didn't consider Lamar Jackson, that's a guy that can win you your league. Plain and simple. He can win you your league.
He's mentioned this many times, yes.
No. From our buddy Mark over on Facebook, it's 2 toss-ups for us. Russell Wilson or Carson Wentz, or Duke Johnson or Josh Adams in the flex. So let's start at the quarterback spot. Man, Carolina's defense has looked awful the last couple weeks. So Russell Wilson, even though they're running the ball a little bit more in Seattle, they've done a really good job of finding ways for Wilson to take more downfield threats. For him to be able to be incredibly efficient. And meanwhile, Wentz is in a really good matchup as well today, too. So I have a hard time deciding on this one. I think I'm more likely to go with Carson Wentz just because I know he's going to score. And sometimes Russell Wilson in some of these road games can be a little bit quiet. So I think I'm leaning towards Carson Wentz in this game.
I am, but it's very, very close.
It is.
It is. And again, if I knew what the deal is with Doug Baldwin, that would maybe sway me a little bit more. That's how close it is.
Okay.
But I think they will utilize the run game a little bit more in Seattle, and because of that, with Carson Wentz, even though the Eagles should utilize Josh Adams, and we got the Josh Adams Duke Johnson flex question, in which, by the way, I am going to choose Josh Adams for today.
Yeah, I am
this
too.
matchup. But still, I'm going to have to roll with Wentz. I see this game being so high scoring
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I think Adams is a fantastic play. And it's so interesting too to think of where the Eagles were. And this is how fantasy football sometimes can be, where you start the year with Jay Ajayi. He's probably RB 17 when you're drafting this year as far as average draft position, right? Somewhere around there between like 15 and 20.
Right around there. So you're looking at like late third round, fourth round.
Okay. And then he goes down, and then we think it's going to be the Corey Clement show. Then it's the Wendell Smallwood show. Now Josh Adams comes out of nowhere, ends up being the lead guy now in Philadelphia. It's pretty remarkable how things can go in a season.
We also had a moment this season where it was, oh, wow, Darren Sproles is still there.
Yeah. Oh, man. Pour one out. Pouring out for Darren Sproles. Just K-State guy. Let's go to Megan on Facebook. In a flex spot between Josh Adams or Tyler Lockett in half-point PPR. So Lockett, again, it kind of goes back to the situation with Doug Baldwin. If Baldwin plays, does that takes away some targets from Lockett? Meanwhile, Adams is kind of locked into what his role would be. So where do you go in a half-point PPR?
Man, I really want to go Josh Adams today. I really do.
I know you love him.
I do love him, and for great reasons, because you can run on the Giants all day. And Matt Breida proved a few weeks ago, proved it perfectly, where a guy who's been banged up all year was able to destroy the Giants' rush defense. So I really want, especially with Doug Baldwin looking like he's playing, I really want to go Josh Adams today.
I like the targets and the consistency for Tyler Lockett. He's basically guaranteed to get 5-6 targets a game. He's catching almost everything that's thrown to him. He's had 5 receptions in the last 2 games, 67 yards, 71 yards, had a touchdown against the Rams. Yeah. I think if we're looking at consistency, Tyler Lockett used to be the antithesis of that. And now he's the consistent guy for Seattle's offense in a game that you can beat Carolina deep. I think I might go Tyler Lockett here.
You know what? I'm going to join that train with you. We were just talking about how bad Carolina's defense is. It's, what I saw a few weeks ago, especially against Tampa, proved it right there that you could score on them very, very quickly and in volume. And I'm going to go with you, Ben, on this one. As much as I do like Josh Adams today, and I think he is definitely a nice, low-valued option for daily, Tyler Lockett. Lock him in.
All right. Lock him in for Tyler Lockett. I see a question coming in from Bryson on YouTube Live. We'll get to you as well in a little bit. Big Mike from Periscope. Our guy Sizzle is back with us. But let's continue on and continue to answer your guys' questions. Again, we're with you every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Central Time. We're with you for an hour. Share it with your friends. We tweet out the link. Go ahead and help share the love of this show, as we're here for you guys each and every week to get your lineup questions answered. It makes a big difference to us knowing that you guys are watching and a part of the show today. Yes, there you go. Share the love. From Jeffrey.
That was hard, by the way. I just did an awful job.
It's all right. I think people figured out what it was. From Jeffrey on Facebook Live, do you go with Sterling Shepard or Valdez-Scantling at the wide receiver 2 spots? Valdez-Scantling burned a lot of us last week, and what we thought was a great matchup for him. Meanwhile, Shepard, we've been talking about this Giants-Eagles game all day. Do you go away from Shep in this spot?
Both of these guys have just crushed us right now. I can't go away from Sterling Shepard in this spot, though, Ben. I mean, I'm just saying that if there's a contract, I can't either. Non-salaried sites, I'm saying Eli Manning. Haven't said that all year. And even though we have to try to avoid recency bias as much as we can, I trust Shepard a little bit more in this situation.
Yeah, and this also kind of feels like if Valdez-Scantling can break one against Trey Waynes, he has an opportunity to do so. He's got the far better matchup instead of Devontae Adams in this matchup because he's going to be likely shadowed by Xavier Rhodes.
Randall Cobb, by the way, could still play in this game. Yeah,
but even if Randall Cobb plays, I don't know what type of advantage he really has at this point. So I think
targets to take away from Valdez-Scantling.
I suppose, but even with that, I just don't know what. Like this feels like a week that everybody gets off Valdez-Scantling and he burns us.
Right.
But at the same time, Shepard's the better play in this matchup. Shepard's the better play. So listen, if Valdez-Scantling takes 70 yards to the house, we can say we warned you. But we also feel comfortable knowing that, the more consistent option in this game. We're looking for consistency. We're looking for volume, looking for target share. And MVS just didn't get it. So I think Shepard's the way to go.
Agree.
Back to Seth on Periscope. Dalvin Cook, Duke Johnson, or Alshon Jeffrey in a half-point PPR. To me, this is an easy decision. I know that Duke has been great the last couple of weeks. I know he had the bye last week, but the previous 2 weeks he was awesome. Dalvin Cook disappointed against the Bears, but I do think it's a really good matchup for him against Green Bay. But we're going Alshon Jeffrey here, right, because of everything we've been saying about this matchup?
We are also. Dalvin has not done well in this matchup previously. And with that, I trust, especially with the high volume of scoring I'm expecting there, trusting Alshon Jeffrey a little bit more than Dalvin Cook.
Andrew on Facebook Live says David Johnson, and that's all he says. If this is a question of whether you should play David Johnson or not, the answer is yes, because he's David Johnson.
Easiest question we'll ever receive.
That's true. We used to say that about Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, wow. Who's that?
Pour another one out.
Yes, seriously. Yeah, and that's ironic there with the emptiness there, just like his salary.
Can I say something though? Like I shouldn't complain about Le'Veon because I took Connor in a bunch of spots, and I feel fantastic about it. You know what amazes me? Can I get on a rant for a second here? It's week 12, Fensty, and I'm going through the waiver wire in some leagues that I'm in, and I cannot believe it. In a year that you've seen the Le'Veon situation happen, that Todd Gurley owners have not picked up Malcolm Brown, that Kareem Hunt owners have not picked up Spencer Ware, that Austin Eckler is not a handcuff for Melvin Gordon owners. What the hell's going on here? Like, you saw what happens when a stud goes down and what the likely volume and usage will be, and there's no Jalen Samuels for Pittsburgh now for Connor. Why aren't people taking their handcuffs? Is it just because of the buys? Do they feel like nobody else is going to pick them up? To me, that makes absolutely no sense.
I mean, you should always be handcuffing your running backs. And when planning your drafts especially, you should be keeping those spots for those handcuffs. The big thing this year has been Todd Gurley. Will he be benched when you're in your fantasy championship?
Right.
That's
it's a very possible situation for the Rams.
The second that news comes out that some reporter, whoever it may be, for the Rams says, wow, it's looking like Todd Gurley's going to either be inactive for Week 15 or limited Week 15. Done. Malcolm Brown will be picked up immediately. You have to pick him up right now. There can't be some bench receiver, even in short bench leagues. There can't be some receiver that's worth that much to keep.
Correct.
For one of your big-time running backs getting that handcuffs and getting that insurance policy, essentially.
Right. You know what I did today? And I don't even have Melvin Gordon. Actually, it was yesterday. But I had gotten Gus Edwards in one league, and I didn't even have to blow a ton of free agent bidding on him. I maybe bet about $15. Got him. So, but the reason for that was because I had Alex Collins. So I wanted to have both guys. I wanted to let things play out this week and then decide who I wanted to keep moving forward. I moved on from Alex Collins because of the possibility that Austin Eckler could start today in this type of matchup. So, I kind of threw that away, knowing that guy was possibly just sitting out there. And it's a 4-bench league. So there's not a lot of bench room. But even still, man, like I had Jalen Samuels there, moved on from him for a week, knowing that there's a possibility that you can move on. Like at some point, I'm going to go get Jalen Samuels back.
Right. You've got to
James Conner in that league.
So this is where reality meets fantasy. You have to handcuff your elite running backs. You do.
Yeah, that's sort of our little PSA. The more you know, just take that use that. Go ahead. Like, if you're thinking about it right now, go ahead and put us on in the background. We're not going to be offended. Go ahead and do whatever you need to do. Now I can't log on to my other computer. That's frustrating. I'm trying to get my other notes up. Go ahead and just get your handcuff running backs right effing now. Let's go to Giuseppe on Facebook. Who do I start pick 2 for running back 2 and flex? Oh man, he gave us like 1,000 different names. Dalvin Cook, Sony Michel, Alex Jones, Matt Breida, Chris Carson. And then he also has Tyler Boyd. So let's sort of go 2 by 2 here. Dalvin Cook or Sony Michel? Michel.
I'm gonna go Sony Michel in this one.
Okay.
Again, very close.
Sony Michel or Alex Jones?
I'm gonna go Sony Michel there.
Okay. Still over Jones?
You know what?
Aaron Jones. Was I calling him that psycho? Alex Jones? Aaron Jones. From the InfoWars? Oh, God. That's a bad mistake. Aaron Jones. Alex Jones. That's a lunatic. Yeah, Aaron. Okay, so you're going to go Michel over Aaron Jones.
No, Jones over Michel.
Okay, it's a tough matchup against Minnesota, but I'm with you there. I would take Matt Breida over Aaron Jones.
Yes.
Okay. And then would you take Breida over Chris Carson?
Yes.
Okay, so Breida's your RB2. Yep. And then go with Tyler Boyd. I know that he's had some struggles without AJ Green, but he's still getting targets, still getting opportunity, and the matchup works against Cleveland. So I would go Breida and I would go Tyler Boyd.
You wouldn't go Michel?
You'd go Breida and Michel?
I would go Breida and Michel.
I can be talking.
Because here's why: the Patriots get up huge in this game. Which, let's face it, we've been talking about this. The Jets' offense won't be able to keep up. No Darnold, so they have McCown in there, and we saw what exactly he did or did not do. They're going to go to Michel a lot in the second half, I feel like.
They could. Do you feel like he's fully healthy at this point?
I do.
Okay.
I'm in.
And also, again, it goes back to what we were talking about. If you believe that both of the running backs are going to eat in this game, then it makes more sense to go with Michel. All right, so we're going to go Giuseppe. We're going to go with Breida. We're going to go with Sony Michel. From Jeffrey on Facebook Live, which running back 2 do I go with? Duke Johnson? Ooh, excuse me. TJ Yeldon, Derrick Henry, or Rashad Penny? That's an easy one for me. I think I go Duke Johnson and go ahead and move on.
You're the whisperer for Duke Johnson, Ben. So anytime you say Duke Johnson, I'm just going to go ride the train with you, even if I may not agree with you.
Right, but it's between TJ Yeldon, Derrick Henry, and Rashad Penny. So I think the agreement is certainly up there. There's another question for Duke between Duke and Josh Adams in PPR. That's a little bit more tough from our buddy Mike, or from our buddy Mark, excuse me. I still think you go Adams in this game. Man,
it's very, very close.
Are you giving it to Duke because of his ability to catch?
Yes.
In full point PPR?
I kind of do, and that's why I was stuck a little bit on Baker Mayfield before Ben. But I do believe in Josh Adams a lot today. He's going to be in a lot of my daily lineups. This is a tough situation because here I am thinking that Nick Chubb's going to have a big game because why not? He is going to have a huge game.
But Chubb and Johnson have both had simultaneously good games together.
That's what makes this a problem and not a shoo-in for Josh Adams for me.
Okay. So are we leaning Duke?
I'm leaning Duke. PPR? Because of the PPR.
Okay. All right, Mark. Go ahead and go with Duke, even though it's probably going to be close. And the other thing, too, is that Duke is going to catch passes guaranteed. Josh Adams may or may not catch passes dealing with Smallwood and Clement in Philadelphia. From Big Mike on Periscope, the Chargers or Steelers defense today. Go Chargers. I think they get themselves right. They burned me last week, Fancy. I had a rough week last week, and one of the reasons why was the Chargers defense did absolutely nothing, got no pass rush against Case Keenum at home. I think that changes today. I expect plenty of sacks. I expect plenty of turnovers from Arizona.
Yep, agree with you there. We're going Chargers.
From Sizzle on Periscope, David Njoku or Jack Doyle in a half-point PPR. There is no more...
Njoku healthy?
Healthy enough. I think he's mentioned that he's going to be playing today. Okay, it's probable.
So that's the big question there because the production hasn't been there.
Right. Regardless, I'm going Doyle today because I feel like Luck's going to have a great game against Miami.
Right, and remember, even with Ebron there, he still does love.
That's true.
It makes total sense.
Okay.
Both of them are love.
Back to D Nation on Periscope. Kiki Kute or David Moore today? Kute's got the Monday night matchup against Tennessee. There's a good opportunity that he might have a chance to cook Malcolm Butler if he ends up getting matched on him, although he plays most of his time in the slot. I think Kute is in for a nice game.
He is, and he's deemed healthy now. So with that, now the thing is, at some point you would think that Demaryius Thomas, who I thought was going to have a huge week,
he's been a disaster.
Oh my God, what is with this guy? But Kiki, I can trust a little bit more here.
Yeah, so I like the speed. I like the big play opportunity. They're at home on the fast track. I think Kute probably scores a long touchdown in this game. I really like that play. From PD Dubs on Periscope, defense question between the Steelers and the Ravens today. Give me all the Ravens against Oakland.
You know what? We now have a new easiest question of the day.
Well, one of them was just David Johnson.
Yes.
I think that still wins.
Yes, very much.
From Bryson on YouTube Live. Thanks for checking us out on YouTube, Bryson. PPR between Marlon Mack and Lamar Miller. Miller, it's tough to run on Tennessee. They're very physical. They'll get you in the backfield. Meanwhile, Marlon Mack's got a juicy matchup at home against Miami, so I think he's the clear-cut play today.
No doubt about it.
From Jose on Facebook, it says, I need a wide receiver and a flex. Josh Gordon, Tyler Boyd, Josh Adams, or Gus Edwards in a standard league. So let's start with doing our let's break them down, do the 2x2. Do you go Josh Gordon or do you go Tyler Boyd?
Man, again, the high ceiling guy is Josh Gordon today.
And if you're looking for touchdown upside too, that's a guy that we want. We both.
Right.
I'd probably go. I know for sure I'd go Josh Gordon, Gus Edwards, and then it's between Tyler Boyd, Josh Adams, or Gus Edwards in a standard league. Boyd, I think, is going to get the most volume. I think we all agree about that. But again, it's not PPR. So do you trust Josh Adams or Gus Edwards to get in the end zone more likely than Tyler Boyd?
I do trust Josh Adams a little bit more.
So you'd go Gordon and Adams?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's perfectly fine. Big Mike on Periscope says, I lost Cooper Kupp, so moving forward, we have to pick one in PPR between Willie Snead, Mohamed Sanu, although he already played, Curtis Samuel, Zay Jones, or Allen Robinson. Robinson already played this week. So moving forward, I guess, it sounds like this isn't really a question to start this week. It's sort of like a rest of the season. If it's rest of the season, I'm going Allen Robinson.
Yes. But as we get closer with matchups changing, you're going to have to not be locked in on that because none of them are shoo-ins for production. So because of that, you're going to have to take it week by week. But if we're answering it right now, Allen Robinson is the safest. From
MD Johnson 22 on Periscope, I'm in a must-win. Do I go with Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson? That's a tough one. But I still think I'm going Lamar Jackson in such a good matchup against Oakland. I think you have to.
I am as well.
From Jose on Facebook, an intriguing toss-up between Jameis Winston or Tom Brady.
Oh, I'm going, even though I think that the Patriots are going to get up quickly, I'm still going with Tom Brady in this matchup. And this is why. Jameis Winston could be out by halftime.
That's the crazy part, is that I love Winston, and I'm probably going to play him in a lot of places in daily today. Because I think as far as upside goes, he's in a smash spot. Meanwhile, for Tom Brady, the one advantage that I know that he has over Jameis Winston is that he's going to stay in the game.
Right.
They could be up 30, and Tom Brady's going to stay in the game, versus Jameis Winston could be down 10, already have put up a couple of touchdowns and 300 yards, and they could go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So
right.
For season long, you have to go Brady. You don't want to kick yourself saying, I can't believe I benched Tom Brady for Jameis Winston. Daily, though, I would go Winston over Brady.
Again, it's just one of those things where I need to see these guys be able to stay in the game for a full game.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I can't trust that right now.
One more from Jose.
Dirk Cutter has shown no intention that he wouldn't move to the other guy. And because of that, by the way, Deshaun Jackson, who'd been dealing with a thumb injury, expected to play in this game for Tampa. I'm still going to be safe and go with Tom Brady there.
Really quickly, let me ask you, who is, besides Evans, like if I wanted to take Jameis Winston in daily today, and I think a lot of people are having this question, who are you most likely to pair Jameis with? Would it be Godwin, Humphreys, or Cam Brate? Because there's a lot of really intriguing options today.
I'd have to go with Cameron Brate. You know the history with them, and now with no O.J. Howard, it should open up more targets for him for sure. I think that's the safest. They have a lot of weapons there, and I've been wrong on Adam Humphries now the last few weeks. I sandwiched him, Ben.
Yeah, he's been better with Winston, though, than Fitzpatrick with Humphries.
Right. I would go with Cameron Brate, though, here.
Brate's probably the safest play. Again, if you're worried that, with Jameis, all these different passing options, you can always play him naked. And just get exposure to this game from somewhere else. I do think, though, that if you're playing Winston in a daily lineup, you're going to want to run it back with George Kittle today. Or Breida.
Yep.
One of those two guys you're going to want.
Both of them are in great spots today.
Yeah, or you can full game stack that game if you really wanted to. You can have 2-3 guys from each side there because there's going to be a ton of points today.
Yep,
fully
Tampa
believe
doesn't
that.
stop the points from occurring, and they're all in great spots today.
I got about 10 minutes left here on FSM Football Sunday Live. Thank you guys for being a part of it. Again, here at Fantasy Sports Markets, we are a new DFS site with no salary cap, so you can go in. It's super easy. You pick the players you want to play. You don't have to worry about how much they cost. And right now, using promo code NFL18, that gets you $5 on us. When you go to fantasysportsmarkets.com, you go in, you register, you type it in, and NFL 18 gets you $5 to use in any of our contests, not just NFL. You can use them for college football, college basketball, NBA, NHL. It's a big time in the NBA right now, Fensty, leading up to what's going to be an amazing Christmas slate. Fensty, when he's not doing great work at SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, is also one of the lead NBA analysts over at Fantasy Alarm. So make sure you guys go there, check out his work, because it is fantastic. But NBA is one of those sports where I'm playing every day, Fensty, in DFS, because I know that every day in NBA I can feel good about a lineup that I put together reading your work.
No, thank you. I appreciate that, Ben. And now's the time. While everyone is still focused on football, this is where you beat those Sharks, and you beat them now. This is where you come in, and before everybody shifts over to basketball, because they're going to have that urge once football's over. That's why you need to get in now, especially if you're just starting out.
Or you don't even have to worry about the Sharks and just play at FSM and just knock them dead.
No salary.
No salary, man. Just makes it easy. Anthony Davis. Giannis. Every night.
I mean, for a reason, right, Ben? He helps out in every single category you could ask for, except for 3-pointers.
Exactly, and he'll develop that shot at some point too. One other toss-up from Jose on Facebook, and again, there's plenty coming in from Periscope. We will get to all these questions, I promise. If you have asked a question on the show, we will get to you. We promise that. It's a tight end toss-up between Jack Doyle and Rob Gronkowski, who is set to be back today. Normally that's a no-brainer, but Gronk has not gotten in the end zone since week 1. I do believe that changes today. I would go Gronk over Doyle.
Yep, when you have Gronk, you start Gronk.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a couple of people are sort of doing the David Johnson treatment with Kiki Kuti? Question mark? Yes.
Yes.
Kiki Kuti is in a nice spot for Houston against Tennessee in the slot. We already answered the Lamar Jackson versus Deshaun Watson question. We will both go Lamar slightly. From Big Mike, wanted to say good work, guys. I'm kicking back, watching, and waiting for this blizzard in Kansas City. Thank you for watching the show, Big Mike. We appreciate it. Somebody said that they played Demaryius Thomas and got a 0 last week.
Yep, I'm there too.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one from the right man for you on Periscope between Eli Manning or Deshaun Watson in a standard league.
Ooh. I may have to go Eli today. As crazy as that sounds. Have you been
drinking too much spinach smoothies? Like, what's that in your head?
Man, I mean, for a second there, I thought there was something in my teeth, which is why you asked me that question. You know what? I can't do it. I can't do it. Here's why. If Watson hasn't done well in this matchup previously, against the Titans, I would immediately go Eli. It's very, very close to me. I guess you still have to stick with Watson here. They're very close, both in similar situations.
The only way that I think I would play Eli is if I'm just going all in on Giants. Like if I have Barkley or if I have Beckham and I want to be able to pair the two of them together, then I will. But Watson on his own, just if you're sort of looking at it from an island play, I just like him too much, even over somebody like Eli today, even with a really good matchup.
So overall,
Eli's also on the road too, again, and the Eagles are pissed. Like there is a possibility today, Fensty, that the Giants just poop all over themselves, and the Eagles figure out what's going on with them, and they just hold them down.
Right. There's also a chance that Odell Beckham Jr. gets multiple touchdowns as well in this matchup.
No doubt. Yeah. This is a game that even though we both really like, does not come without some risk.
No.
So I think Watson, just sort of on a standalone level, makes more sense to me than with Eli. But again, go ahead and make a daily lineup at FSM and just do Eli and Barkley and Odell, run it back with Zach Ertz on the other side, and you're in line for a nice solid play. But in standard and in season long, I just don't know if I can go there.
Understood. I'm leaning a little bit more as I'm looking at the numbers a little bit more with previous matchups that they've had. It's very, very close. I'm going to lean Watson here, though.
Fair enough. A couple more that we will get to before we give some of our favorite plays over at Fantasy Sports Markets today. Another one from Periscope. In the flex, Lamar Miller or Josh Gordon again today. And even Lamar Miller in standard, where he probably has a little bit more value. Gordon's going to go off today. We both feel really good about him.
Yes, I agree with that. We've been all over Gordon. One of my favorite plays of the day will be in a lot of my daily lineups, Ben.
All right, so let's get to some of our favorite plays for daily lineups over at fantasysportsmarkets.com. And while we're doing that, I'll put that promo code up one final time for you guys that are watching to be able to get in on our contest today. Start at the quarterback spot, Fensty. I think a lot of people are looking at Lamar Jackson as the nuts today. Andrew Luck, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady, certainly a part of that conversation. Would you consider this guys in the Sunday night game? Because you can use, we're Sunday all day at FSM. Would you consider Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers to be a part of the mix today as well?
Not as much as some of the other guys that you just mentioned there. Also Carson Wentz, by the way, let's put him there. I don't think those guys I would choose as much as I would choose if I was making especially non-salary as guys that you just mentioned.
Okay, so anybody in particular stand out? Do you have a favorite?
Man, you know what? I'd say, I'm trying to think. I mean, I want to put faith in Aaron Rodgers. Hasn't done well against them, though. I'd say if there's someone I love Tom Brady today. We talked about him at the top of the show. Love him. Love this matchup against the Jets. We've been talking about Josh Gordon, so he might actually have to be my priority quarterback.
Wow. I love Brady, too. I think it's a great spot for him. If you want the great upside of the rushing floor with Lamar Jackson, you can do him, too. And don't sleep on Andrew Luck today, too.
No, don't sleep on Andrew Luck.
He has been awesome the last several weeks. The Colts are one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and Luck has been a big part of it. He looks healthy. He's using his weapons. Frank Reich is starting to look like he's one of the good up-and-coming coaches in the NFL. So Andrew Luck certainly in play there as well. At the running back spot, you talked about two of your favorite plays that are likely to be very low-owned, especially on a site like Fantasy Sports Markets. Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb, when everybody's likely chasing Saquon Barkley and Melvin Gordon and David Johnson and Christian McCaffrey. Those are a couple of your favorite plays that you really like today.
You know, do you think a lot of people aren't going to be on Leonard Fournette?
I don't think a lot of people are going to be on Fournette.
Very low total. I mean, you're in the 30s right now when it comes to this Buffalo-Jacksonville game. I think people are going to be stuck on the fact that Leonard Fournette, I mean, against this Bills rush defense, I think they're stuck with having full confidence in him. This is one of those things, Ben, and in season-long leagues especially, you drafted him, he's healthy, you start Leonard Fournette. So I think
for season-long, for sure.
Right. From a daily standpoint, I mean, if you're thinking from an ownership standpoint, he is going to be low-owned. He is, for sure.
That I agree with. Yeah, I think ownership for Fournette is not going to be particularly high. And, you know, I think Buffalo there's some concerns about going up against their defense. And Jacksonville just kind of feels like after they blew that game last week to Pittsburgh that they could be in an absolute mess. Now, you know, I'm still going to be playing Jacksonville. I have them in season long. You know, it's against Buffalo and Josh Allen. They'll turn the ball over, but you know, if the defense comes out and they just don't care, that could be a disaster. And Buffalo could start to get themselves going. LaShawn McCoy, I saw on some of the salary sites, is dirt cheap. And that's another advantageous matchup that I think people can take advantage of as well. Wide receiver, would you play both Barkley and Odell Beckham Jr. together if you're playing on DFS today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I would too. I would too. But then, you know, who sort of becomes that number 2 top wide receiver? Is it Antonio Brown on the road against Denver? Is it Devontae Adams against Minnesota? Maybe Adam Thielen gets back on track. Stephon Diggs in a really good matchup at home against Green Bay. DeAndre Hopkins Monday night. Who do you like here?
I like DeAndre Hopkins the best of all those guys that you just mentioned. Love this matchup for him.
If Melvin Gordon is not at 100%, do you think Keenan Allen could be a sneaky play?
Yes, another guy. Even if he plays, I think Keenan Allen definitely has a good chance today of producing 15+.
And then last one but not least, the tight end spot. I think there are 3 guys that I'm going to want a ton of interest in, especially on Fantasy Sports Markets. May even do a lineup where I roll out a couple different tight ends. Zach Ertz, especially with all the love towards Odell Beckham and Saquon Barkley. You got to run it back with somebody if you believe points are going to be scored. Zach Ertz is going to get a ton of targets in this game, especially against the Giants. And then George Kittle, especially with no Marquise Goodwin, he is a lock for probably 10+ targets in this game. And then if you believe in the Gronk coming out party for this year, he's healthy. He's sat out the last couple of weeks. You know, I wish you could play 3 tight ends if you wanted to, but I think those 3 are all guys that I'm really high on today.
I'm with you there. A couple of guys, since we were both on the same page with those guys for a reason. George Kittle, by the way, has an incredible matchup. So George Kittle definitely might be my priority tight end, especially on salaried sites. But looking at other guys who have high ceilings, we mentioned Cameron Brate before with no O.J. Howard. And also, let's not forget Eric Ebron. You always have to view him as a high upside guy because he does get targeted in the red zone. And when you're looking at the receiving weapons for the Colts, there are not too many. And Andrew Luck has shown that there's plenty of love to go around for both his tight end options.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I could ever play Ebron unless if I was playing him on the salary sites and he was just way too cheap to not even consider. Knowing that Doyle's going to run about 65, 70% of the snaps. But you're right. When they're in red zone territory and Ebron's on the field, there's a good chance the ball's going his way. Fensty, we wrapped up another Week 12 show. We got to answer the people's questions. Where can people find you and your work in case they want to ask you a question outside of the show?
At Fensty Sports on Twitter. Also every Saturday morning, 6 to 8 a.m. Eastern, and on demand with the SiriusXM app for Wake Up Fantasy Sports, and also FantasyAlarm.com for all of your fantasy basketball needs, season long or daily. I'm here for you.
Yes, he is, and we are here for you guys as well. Leading you up until kickoff, get in on FantasySportsMarkets.com. Use that promo code NFL18. Get your $5 for free. It is easy, it is fast, and there are some really good contests and over $113,000 up for grabs in roster bonuses as well. For Fensty, I'm Ben. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back next Sunday, 10 a.m. East Coast time, 9 a.m. Central time for FSM Football Sunday. Until then, good luck in week number 12, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. Be good.